Hmm. It's very difficult to attempt to compare what we use to govern with what others have for how they choose to engage. Most of the folks on this planet are operating by way of a fiction. We don't operate in fiction. A theoretical fiction such as a quote unquote republic or some other type of inanimate engagement, where basically it is a corporation, a business of some type, uh, that operates by way of some type of a mission statement, where you have what's called the franchisor, and there'll be franchises, uh, so-called states or oblasts, and then you have the franchisees that participate. Franchisees uh, are at a great disadvantage because they are treated as uh, co-business partners to the alleged fiction. So basically, if you sue one partner, then you sue both the partners. Whether the parties realize that they are a co-business partner of a fiction, that's the thing that most folks are blinded to. So most of what folks refer to as government is not government, it's just franchising management. And so there's a stark difference. And we don't have that. We have organic diplomacy and governance. Um, a piece of paper and it cannot create anything. Only the uh, organic, the animate can do that. A someone, not a piece of paper. A piece of paper is what's used by some to create a fiction. And that particular fiction, uh, well, it has agents and relators that will carry out the mission statement according to that particular piece of paper, so-called charter, an alleged corporation that has an alleged corporate constitution, as some refer to it. Most folks don't even know what a constitution even actually looks like or is to be comprised of. Most are familiar with a writ of mixed war with a manifesto attached to it, and they're not the same thing. So there are consequences to a lack of knowledge and comprehension, particularly of things of customary international law, not just about how organic diplomacy and governance works. So those are all key factors that will help you to determine how you'd like to establish and operate an organic nation with an organic government. The key to the organic component is the physical manifestation of the sovereign power of that particular governance must be someone that is breathing, a someone that is breathing, not a piece of paper with agents and relators for it. So, as a monarch or a constitutional monarch, you are someone, and that someone can, in fact, confer a title of nobility, can confer a nationality. And it cannot do that. So, you have two types of monarchs, though: constitutional monarch and a monarch. There's others, but they're basically same. They're variants from the same thing. But what it comes down to on that particular theme is whether or not they are operative, they have to actually govern, or are they in fact speculative, where they're just figureheads with no power. And you can tell who's who by whether or not there's a prime minister or not. If there's a prime minister, that's the one that has the real power, and the other one does not. And the prime minister actually answers to whoever owns the central bank of that particular entity. Now, most of the monarchies on this planet have been subjugated. They basically have been taken over, and they have no power, and it's illegal, as they would say, or unlawful for them to even rule or govern. So that's not what we have in the Amexem-Moor-Empire. As the constitutional monarch for the Amexem-Moor-Empire, I have constitutional duties, obligations, and responsibilities to, in fact, govern. Now, the Imperial Council is a co-equal branch of unto the branch that I'm part of. I'm not part of the legislative branch. I don't have the authority as a constitutional monarch to make our fiscal budget law. My duty, obligation, responsibility constitutionally is to present a budget proposal before the Imperial Council. The Imperial Council makes the budget law. That keeps things in line, uh, because eventually the annual budget is going to run out. And so if the constitutional monarch has bad policies, they can be shut down by the end of the year because they're going to run out of money for the year. So that they go back to the Imperial Council to ask for more money. That's how you keep the constitutional monarch in line. Also, the constitutional monarch for the next monarch cannot declare war. That is the domain, that is the authority that is handled by the Imperial Council, the legislative branch of the Imperial government. And by and large, most of our kith and kindred on the planet, they're engaging with co-business partners as legal fictions tied back to a franchise owned by a franchisor. And that franchisor usually owns the central bank that they use to engage in their commerce and trade. And you cannot do that. Within the Amexem-Moor-Empire, we don't have a central bank. We don't have banking, period. We have the imperial depository system. Banks engage in usury, riba, as it's known in the Molaodi, quote unquote, Arabic. Um, we don't have credit in the Amexem-Moor-Empire. You cannot borrow. We don't do that here. Uh, that will allow for a wide variety of issues, including artificially created inflation and who knows whatever else can be done. We don't do that here. So that keeps us even keel. And most folks fail to realize, even with some of the hybridized and encapsulated monarchies, uh, most of the top 10 and the top 20, economies on the planet, 7 of them are monarchies. And they're in the top tier, not like 15 to 20. They're in the top tier of that top 20. Mamlaka al-Saud is a hybrid. They are an absolute power monarchy, uh, theoretically. However, they don't control their central bank. So they are a hybrid, but they have more autonomy as a result of them being the hybrid. But effectively, they don't control their central bank. Now, Brunei is also a hybrid. They have the absolute monarchy there. They have Sultan there. But also, they don't control their central bank. So if someone else is controlling your banking system or controlling the flow of your funds, if you would, that's the real power. You may have some limited powers. Ultimately, the one that control your central bank, they basically pull all the strings. When I wrote what became the Amexem-Moor-Empire Constitution, and the Imperial Council chose to ratify it, that became the law of the domains of the realm of the Amexem-Moor-Empire Constitutional-Monarchy. And from that moment on, it was very clear we won't be doing the speculative scenario here. We'll be doing the operative for governance here. We won't be doing the legal fiction thing here. We're going to do the organic diplomacy and governance here. We're going to do the animate and not the inanimate. We're going to do the unencumbered and not getting encumbered. And since no constitutional monarch within the Amexem-Moor-Empire could ever propose, let alone attempt to get legislated, and no imperial council can ever legislate the existence and functionality of any quote-unquote bank or borrowing or credit, that protects us from going down the same rabbit hole that most of our kith and kindred on the planet go down. Now, it takes us longer to get things done because we have to raise funds to buy equipment, material, supplies in our fiscal budget laws. However, there's no interest, so things don't cost as much as it would cost us if we had to pay for things with interest rates on it. So when you borrow, the borrower is always beholden to the lender. We don't borrow, we're not beholden to anyone. Now, our 12 departments and 30 departments that we have is sufficient for us to do our duty, obligation, and responsibility at the imperial government level, down to the sector level, to the regional level, the district level, down to the local level. So we started with 12 departments and 36 sub-departments, but now we have 39 sub-departments, and that's as far as we're going to be going. We don't need any additional sub-departments. And we are very effective and very efficient because we have to be. Constitutionally, I just can't go to the Imperial Council and ask for things and arbitrarily assume I'm going to get them. And it shouldn't be that way. This is how the nationals get excellent government. So when we have our trainings, when we have our oversight operations, we have basically we're accounting for, all right, what did we buy? Is everything present accounted for? Is it all able, ready, and operational underway? Is anything damaged? Everything's in working order. So that means it's going to be in the best condition for the nationals for their usage. Cool. Good. Great. Excellent. We're doing what we're supposed to do. And we're able to show, why did you, last year in the budget, you had this type of a microscope. Why did you change out and get this microscope? This one is at 8 millimeters and it's a sharper image. This one over here, the warranty wasn't as good as the warranty on this one, so we changed out. This one over time, it had decent reviews, but apparently their quality must have gone down because the reviews are not as good as they were in the previous year, so we switched out that one. In other words, it's in the fiscal budget. You see it in the line items because is there for us to examine. In our jurisdiction and venue, what's called the departmental portion of our budget, that's one thing. Those are block monies for each department and subdepartment. The best way for me to put it to you is the line items are paid for separately. However, when you look at the line items, what you're going to be seeing is things that you can say, wait, uh, why are they getting this? Why did they get X amount of these units? What's the story with this, that, and the other? In other words, if it's in there, you're able to see the how-tos and what force and what can be done with that equipment. But you can also begin to see what arguments may have been made between the Imperial Council and I, or between the Imperial Council members amongst themselves, to get that equipment, material, and supplies, and those numbers into the line items, because that's where all the negotiations go down. We start with the deliberations phase, but then we go into the negotiations phase. And during negotiations, it's arguing and counter-arguing, why should we get this equipment as opposed to this equipment? Why should we get this number of them as opposed to that number of them? Why does this make sense? Votes have to be earned. I'm not a monarch, I'm a constitutional monarch. I have to earn the votes to get the budget law, to make sure that